Hi, welcome to another edition of Relatable. I am your host, Stephanie Michele. This is the show where we talk about exceptional human encounters, the people who make them happen, and the actions it takes to create them. Now, before we get to the exceptional human encounter and dog encounter that we're going to talk about today, I have to rant a little bit. I watched something over the weekend, and I feel very passionate about telling you about what I watched and encouraging everybody else to watch. So it's this new doc on Netflix called The Great Hack, and it's exploring what data and tech companies are doing with our data, and in particularly what Cambridge Analytica did and how it affected our 2016 presidential election. So, good time to reflect on that. We've got another election coming up. So I don't want to lead you in what you should believe or what you should take away, but I do want to give you some questions to ask yourself while watching this doc, okay? And then I will share a little bit about where I'm coming from and what I feel about it. So first of all, and these could be, if you're watching along right now on the live stream, these could be questions that you share amongst yourselves and chat about. So first question, are you a persuadable? So a persuadable person that's posting on social media is doing a lot of things that that are putting out data points on you that people can use to say, oh, there's a good chance that this person is persuadable in this area based on what they put out, what kind of content they put out. So, can you think about that? Are you easily persuaded? And, think about the kind of content that you're putting out, and would you give that perspective, or would someone think that way about you? In what areas? Maybe you're persuadable in one area over here, but not so much over here. How can we have more awareness about the content that is made to specifically target you to change your mind, even if it does not benefit you to do so? So that's where it gets scary, like people changing our minds, but they know it's not in our best interests. So another question to think about if you get to watch this is what 5,000 points of my personal data is out there for the public, and how is it being used? Who owns my data? You ever consider that? Have you read every agreement on apps and software as service technology that you're using to see what you're actually giving away in terms of privacy and data? I know they're long, and we want to push that button and say, yep, I read that, but I would consider reading it. Another question to consider while watching it, will we ever be able to have a fair election again? And last question I want to put out there is, what happens when we hold what is trending or what is considered cool higher than personal and relational integrity? And my hint on this one, so there's a whistleblower in the doc named Brittany Kaiser. She was an ex-intern who worked for US President Barack Obama. And then she landed a job with Cambridge Analytica, writing contracts for Trump and helping with the Brexit exit. And just watch her behavior and let me know what your thoughts are about that. And then last question, how can we be less susceptible to content manipulation? Yeah, I said that. We can be manipulated by content. So here's the experiment that I'm starting today, and I will be posting something pretty outrageous right after the show to see where this goes. I'm going to post content expressing things that I am passionate about and see what I'm targeted with, and try to figure out who might be targeting me with this kind of content and why. And then, of course, pay attention to, is this fact or fiction? So will you do this with me? I think this is going to be our social challenge of the week, is we'll just call it the I am not your persuadable challenge, and we're going to put out content to kind of trick the system and see what happens and see if we can track it. So here's some examples of what I would say will be things that I'm going to put out to just say, hey, try to persuade this. My first, and I'm going to cuss because I feel like these statements I'm about to make deserve the good old F word. So here we go. If kids are in the room, yeah, cover their ears. Scooter's ears are being covered right now. All right, so first of all, fuck any company or person who is using my data in an unethical, non-transparent way. Yes. Fuck any company or person who is trying to own my data. I believe data rights are human rights. Fuck any company or person who is discriminating against people based on race, sex, gender, or upbringing, and who do not practice equality in any way. And in general, just fuck hate, and those people that are using religion to spread their hateful agendas. I don't think all religions are bad, but when we're using religion to spread hateful stuff, I do not like that. I am totally against that. Fuck any company or person who is sitting on medical cures because it's more profitable to do so than just to treat symptoms. Fuck any company or person who is knowingly promoting dangerous, addictive drugs. Fuck any company or person who is willingly damaging the planet and sitting on information that will help us restore resources. I've got more. Fuck any company or person that adds toxins to our foods or personal products knowing that they're causing us harm. Fuck any company or person that operates in a system of greed that considers only profits without any consideration to wellness of the individual, community, or nation. And I'll stop there. I feel good about putting those out there,
Feel
actually.
better, Stephanie?
Yes, I do feel better.
Me too.
All right. I know you have some, right? You're going to add to this, aren't you? Okay. So I'll stop for now because I do want to shift into more of a delightful conversation and speak with my guest and I was almost a four-legged companion, but we're going to talk about a three-legged companion. Yes, three. So joining me today is returning all-star champion Hal Bastian. He's been on the show before.
No pressure.
No pressure. He is a 33-year-old. No, you like that?
33 years old.
You like it?
Yeah.
We'll just keep that in there.
I'm going to tell everybody I'm 66.
Okay, cool. He's spent 33 years in commercial real estate and has spent the last 20 years helping to create the downtown Los Angeles Renaissance. And Hal and his dog Scooter are both DTLA, that's what we call downtown, DTLA celebrities.
Even though downtown is one word, not two.
I know.
But that's another.
I know. Well, you know, it sounds better.
They didn't
DTLA.
consult me.
I know. But they've consulted you on everything else. So,
that's right.
So Hal, if you remember, if this is the first time that you've seen him on the show, like he really has touched every single piece of development that has brought back this downtown area, because we didn't have a downtown area. Los Angeles was not known for having a downtown area, and for a while it was kind of abandoned and scary, and it's not anymore. There's a lot of growth. There's a lot of culture, a lot of new restaurants and things to do, and Hal's really been a huge part of that. So he is still very active in real estate. He consults developers and retailers to tell them where to go and what the demographics are and how to have a successful, thriving business downtown.
By the way, the first lesson is you got to do outreach. Build it and they will come.
Oh yeah, we'll talk.
Only worked in Field of Dreams.
Yeah, totally.
And even then, I don't know.
I agree. I'm a marketer. I got this. So, and he does a lot of events to support local businesses and bring attention to these businesses and make sure that they are thriving. He also does a pretty amazing DTLA tour. So if you want to hear about the historical buildings and the Prohibition tunnels and all these great things that have happened in downtown Los Angeles, he's the guy. And he's also doing some really cool video content with a mutual friend of ours, Ryan. So that's Hal. And why he's here today.
Ryan Morris, by the way.
Ryan Morris. And why he's here today is we have a story about his beloved dog, Scooter, who had to have one of his legs amputated just in May.
And his shoulder.
And his shoulder.
Yeah.
And we're going to learn about what you've learned from him in this whole time of resilience, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's why he's here today. So I obviously have been talking for a while and had a lot of F-bombs that I dropped and shared some things that I'm passionate about. What's on your mind?
Oh my goodness. Well, thanks for inviting me and inviting Scooter to be on the show today.
You're welcome.
We love you and you're an uplifting person, and I think that's what the show is all about, right?
Yes.
Is to be relatable with one another and have a dialogue.
To be real.
To be real.
Yeah.
And I've never had any problem with being real.
No.
So, yeah, I'm bluntly real.
Yeah.
So, boy, there's so many things to talk about. I've been downtown since '94. I lived downtown since 2001, and downtown used to be the center of everything, really, till World War II, and then we suburbanized, and downtown went into a decline that lasted for decades. Mm-hmm. And for the last 20 years, we've been bringing it back and rediscovering our, city center. Stephanie, in 1924, 100,000 people lived in downtown LA. And when I got here in '94, we had about 18,000. And today we have about 75,000, and we're on our way to 90. So hopefully by 2024, we'll be back at parity.
Yeah. You think it's possible?
Oh, that's a low number.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's way beyond that. So, I like to say downtown is an overnight wonder I've been working on for a long, long time.
Yeah.
And many, many people, in the community. I came downtown in '94 to work for a big company called Cushman & Wakefield. I'm a real estate guy. And I did the leasing of what was then called Broadway Plaza, which became Macy's Plaza, and we now know as the Block on 7th Street between the south side of 7th Street.
Outdoor mall. It's an outdoor mall.
Yeah, Hope and Flower. It's a mixed-use project, the whole city block. So I did that. And then in the year 2000, we had a new public policy called the Adaptive Reuse Ordinance. And this will eventually lead to scooter and dogs.
No, well. I know where the story's going.
I never really know where the story's going.
I know where it's going.
Yeah. So, we in terms of adaptive reuse, we started converting old buildings. Till 1965, the tallest commercial office building was 13 stories in downtown LA. And then under Mayor Tom Bradley, we decided to redevelop an area called Bunker Hill, which used to be residential. And when we built those tall buildings you now see on the skyline, people moved out of the old downtown to the new downtown. And in 1999, we passed a public policy called the Adaptive Reuse Ordinance to allow the conversion of these old office buildings into residential. A woman named Carol Schatz, who is a leader in the community, did that at Central City Association. And I left Cushman & Wakefield in the year 2000 to go work for a guy named Tom Gilmore, who was the first developer to take advantage of the Adaptive Reuse Ordinance, convert 3 historic office buildings on 4th Street between Spring and Main into residential.
Yeah.
And that's a story about how I left from corporate America to leasing loft-style apartments. But that would be a 2-hour show. So anyway, I did that. We were successful. But when we started it, to say the neighborhood was rough was an understatement. We literally had homeless encampments outside our buildings, and we were like, well, how are we going to lease these 230 apartments? Which is probably a question you should ask yourself before you spend $33 million. And I had like some divine inspiration. I had a dog named Buddy, and if you're a renter, it's hard to be a renter and get a landlord to take you because there's pee and poop and there's wear and tear. And we had taken all these floors down to concrete and sealed them with epoxy for our lofts. And I'm not a religious guy, but I'm super spiritual, and there's something bigger than me, I'll tell you that. And the voice came in, be dog friendly. And that was the
God shot. Don't you call that a God shot?
It's a God shot.
Yeah, I've heard that. I heard that from Hal before. He had a little God shot.
Yeah, it's good. Everybody's enjoying your ass there. Anyway, he's got a really pretty ass. Anyway, so that came to me, and at the end of the day, we leased 230 apartments to 350 people with 150 dogs, and that was the beginning of the dog movement.
Yeah.
In downtown Los Angeles.
What year was this?
This was the year 2000.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I had a dog named Buddy, the golden retriever, and he came to work with me every day, and we leased up these lofts, and I spent a lot of my time proselytizing, being dog friendly. And then in 2001, I got recruited by Carol Schatz to go to work for CCA in something called the Business Improvement District. And then I spent, from the year 2001 till now helping build a greater downtown. And I helped I was a drum major of the marching band in high school. I went to Granada Hills High School.
I can see that.
Yeah, was born 2 miles from here, Queen of Angels Hospital. 500,000 kids got born there after World War II. Grew up in the Valley, went to Granada Hills High School, became the drum major of the marching band my senior year, 77 to 78. And if you're good at math, now you know how old I am. And
33.
Yeah, right, 33.
And if you're not good at math, 33.
And I became the drum major of the marching band, and that's kind of like when leadership started appearing. And we won the All-City Championship. We were the best band and drill team in the whole city of LA. I was very not liked by the band and drill team because I made us stay long hours practicing overtime, but we won. And we had this guy named John Elway, who was our quarterback, who's a year my junior, so that was kind of cool. So I kind of taken that leadership into downtown.
Yeah.
And I've been a drum major of the marching band called Downtown, but there's a big band behind me. And so that's what we did. But so dogs came into to play into downtown, and they created community.
Definitely.
The people that were shooting up outside our buildings were still shooting up, but they had moved because there was a lot of activity on the streets, and so they moved, but they were still ill. And one of the things that I share very openly is I'm clean and sober, and I got clean and sober while I was working for Tom Gilmore. Shooting up cocaine and drinking too much was kind of interfering with my job performance.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I called myself the Brooks Brothers junkie. And while I was there, I decided to get clean and sober. So on February 5th, 2001, that started, and by the grace of God, here I am today. So. And that was really necessary. I want to talk about Scooter and his amputation. Scooter came into my life about 4 days after I had to put Buddy down, back in 2008. and so he was found at Hill and Pico in the middle of traffic, and was somehow coaxed out of traffic without getting hit. And so he's been in my life. We just celebrated 11 years on June 28th, which is a good start. And but in May, one day I was, in my place, in my loft, and Scooter was aggressively licking his paw. And Ryan Morris was actually with me, and we kind of both noticed it. And I went to investigate it, and I turned his paw over, and it was just raw and angry, and it looked horrible. And I thought, oh, he got a piece of glass in it or something, So we went to the vet. That was a Friday, and we went to. There's no test on this. The next day, we went to the vet, DTLA vets.
My vet as well.
Yeah, my vet. Well, I helped recruit them.
I know. I think
downtown.
you were the.
And he was the first patient. Yeah. Okay.
You did refer me, I think.
All right.
Yeah.
I should get 10% of that. Anyway, so we went in, and the Dr. Gupta is the doctor that saw the vet that saw Scooter, and we didn't know quite what it was, but I got news early the next week that it was cancer. So he had a cancer tumor in his left paw, and it was crazy because it hadn't presented. There had been no limping or anything else, no symptoms until that aggressive licking that one night, sitting on the couch, and so the A word was mentioned, amputation, and which was...
Well, there's a worse alternative.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right.
Don't say that one.
Yeah,
he already knows. You don't have to spell that one for cover his ears on the other alternative.
I know. You're not really being too lively here for the camera. But you can see on his left side, he's missing not only a leg, but a shoulder. And the reason for that is the tumor was so big. What had happened, by the way, is it started growing aggressively, and it had broken the skin of the paw. And it was not going to slow down. And there was no way to excise the tumor and get the margins and all that stuff. So they've learned, since dogs do get cancer in their legs, usually it's a cancer in the bone, often. But he had it in the paw, and the protocol was you had two choices. Put your dog down, not a really good option, or cut off his shoulder and his leg, which is like, blah! I want my little boy to go through that kind of pain.
Yeah.
So for about 2 days, I was like Darth Vader. I'm like, he's going down. He's going down. He's going down soon, and he's not going to suffer. And I
didn't know this part of the story.
Well, that's why I'm here on the show.
Yeah. I'm glad you are here.
And I want to share it because it's really, really important.
Yeah.
So I posted on Facebook that what was going on, and I said the two choices are put him down or amputate his shoulder and his leg. By the way, the reason they do the shoulder is once the leg's gone, there's no reason for the shoulder. And as it turns out, they seem to be, they call them tripod, TRIPAWD, tripods. And they're able to just absolutely walk and do everything.
And the shoulder would probably get in the way of being down or being really comfortable without.
And also, I think there's a balancing issue, like maybe a little too much weight there. So I was all ready to put him down, but I posted on social media and I said, listen, this isn't a poll on whether or not to put my dog down. But if you want to share with me something by private message, go ahead. Well, I got messages. And the messages were that, we understand. I didn't want to be that guy who kept my dog alive for me. He's, 12 years old, roughly, 12 years old. And I want to be the guy that, made him live and go through an amputation for my benefit. That's how I originally looked at it. But once I started hearing from people, they started telling me that dogs are resilient. They're relatable and they're resilient. And so I started listening to that. And there's a Facebook group called Dudes with Dogs. It's a closed group. There's 80,000 gay guys all across the world that belong to this group. When they started chiming in.
Yeah.
And so I went from being Darth Vader to Luke Skywalker. I wanted to save his life. And, after I came up with that metaphor, I realized his father, Darth, had cut off Luke's arm.
He did.
He did. I'm a man of metaphors. And I made the decision. And here was, Stephanie, here was the ultimate decision. I had a 12-year-old dog that acts 6, who was in perfect health. No kidney failure, no arthritis. The hips were good. Everything is good. And so it came down to my dog going through a traumatic surgery with meds, fentanyl to be exact. and to be uncomfortable for a couple of weeks or dead forever. So I chose 2 weeks, and that was on May 30th.
Mm-hmm. Did you ask the vet personally what they would do? Because I know this is all female veterinarian clinic, by the way.
Well, except for Dr. Gupta.
Dr. Gupta? Okay,
yeah,
Dr. Gupta.
He was a guy.
Because he does the surgery?
Yeah.
Okay.
And, it's not a cheap date.
No, it's not cheap date.
But it's cheaper than Stanford, So, anyway, my joke is for 11 years, this kid was all about, oil and gas. And then his transmission dropped, and I had to rebuild his engine.
Jeez.
But so then you start feeling really guilty. Like, why am I even giving it any economic considerations to this? I mean, he's my my relationship. By the way, I work at least at 12. Well, I don't work at all. I'm very active, but I don't work. I think of work as like doing something that you have to do to get a paycheck, and I do things that I am in love with that I get paid for.
Yeah.
Isn't that what everybody kind of like goes for? So, but when I get home, he has daycare, and Kathleen comes to get him. Kathleen Bass comes and gets him in the morning, and then she brings him back at night. And in fact, after the surgery, by the way, he was walking the next day, just walking as if nothing. If you want a video on that, let me know.
Was there any looks? Did he look at you afterwards like, Dad, why'd you do this to me? Nothing.
Nothing.
What
amputation?
Yeah.
I mean, if people were as resilient as this dog was, there wouldn't be any psychiatrists, psychologists, or big pharma. Everybody would be out of business because dogs. And I don't know how we know this, but they appear to be in the now. I mean, in the now all the time. And a couple weeks after the surgery, he went out with Kathleen to stay at her home for a couple weeks while he was healing, because here I have to walk my dog about 2 football fields to the police headquarters lawn at 2nd and Spring. And I didn't want him to make that big trek on one leg, recently with a recent amputation. So he went to stay with Kathleen while he healed. And
she has a yard.
So he could just walk outside and go potty instead of 2 football fields there and 2 football fields back. Plus, I got to tell you, I just didn't really want to deal with actual incision site and things like that. I'm really tough in many ways, but I didn't want to see my baby with his,
That's honest.
Yeah. So it took a couple weeks, and then he came and he got his stitches out, and then he came home. And I have a video on Instagram. I'm Hal Bastian, DTLA.
It's on the screen, Hal.
Yeah, is it?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm fancy now.
Wow.
Since you've been here last.
Well, you can watch videos of him like hopping along, hop on Cassidy. But what I say is that if he could speak, and he's way advanced beyond the need for speech, it would be, what do you mean you're sorry they cut my shoulder and leg off? I've got all 3. Got all I need. He's not even dealing with that.
Yeah.
And what do they call it? Anthropomorphization, where we attribute human characteristics and emotions to dogs, which I do all the time. And he's a fucking rock star.
He totally is. Do you think if there's any changes, do you think he senses how we're dealing with him differently, or like more attention, or?
Well, listen, when this dog walks down the streets of downtown, he has always gotten a lot of attention.
Yeah.
He's gotten a lot of attention. He is, I've never tested this, but I think he is what's called, you have to Google it. He's a a Nova Scotia duck tolling retriever. Nova Scotia duck tolling retriever, which is a bird dog. And what duck tolling is the hunter goes out with their duck tolling retriever. They call them tollers. And they go and they do what they do. They shoot. First of all, the dog makes a ruckus to get the birds out of the reeds to come out, and then what the hunters do. And then these duck tolling retrievers go and get the bird, and they bring it to shore, and they shake it, by its neck, just in case it's not dead.
Right.
And then they bring it to the master, and they put their paw on top of it, just in case it's not dead. So that's what he is. He's that. I've got it here, all over here. He's a Nova Scotia duck tolling retriever and probably a Shiba Inu.
Yeah, I see that. I see that in the face.
Because if you look at the duck tolling retrievers, the tails go down and the ears are floppy. kind of a small version of a golden retriever, except they have a white chest and white spats. And yeah, so he's both those things. So he got a lot of attention because he's a very attractive dog. And you know, when people say, what kind of dog is he? I say, cute. Yeah. And then I go into the speech about the duck-tailed retriever, and their eyes just glaze over, and they Google it. Excuse me. So
it's really too much information, Hal.
Yeah. Well, listen, it's an hour show. I got to fill some space. So anyway, but when we walk the streets of downtown for the last 11 years, he has always gotten attention. Yeah. And now that he has 3 legs, it's on fucking steroids. I mean, it's like it takes me 20 minutes to walk, you know, a block. Everybody wants to interact with him and play with him, and he literally appears not to know. I mean, he runs, he plays. Yeah. The one thing is, in his older age, he started getting kind of impatient with, especially young dogs, and he would just growl and get pretty aggressive with them. And it seems to be less now, because I think now he knows he's tippable. You know, he's much more tippable. You know, so you have to watch it. But you know, in my life, whether it's in my sobriety or my business life, you know, I'm a pretty stable guy, and I try to take it one day at a time. And you know, I use the Serenity Prayer a lot. And for those that you don't know, it's, you know, the Serenity Prayer is, God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and then the hard part, the wisdom to know the difference. I'm bad at number 3.
Yeah, we all could use some help in number 3.
So yeah, so I just kind of stayed calm through it all, and it, you know, except for the Darth Vader. By the way, I've never fed Scooter human food because I didn't want him to beg at table. They say that dogs live longer if you're not feeding them stuff and getting them overweight and so on. For the 2 days that I was putting him down, the 2 days that I turned into Darth Vader, he started getting food. Yeah, and then once I decided to save his life, it's like, no soup for you. Google that, Seinfeld. No soup for you. So yeah, he went back just to regular food. But it's been a huge learning experience for me.
What's like the top 3 things you've learned?
Resilience. You know, just take it one day at a time. Now, let me tell you, we don't think that the cancer metastasized, but you never know. And so, and by the way, I've almost died 8 different times in my life. Drug overdoses, a ruptured appendix, big metal machinery falling off flatbed trucks and almost crushing me. So I know a little bit about cherishing every day. And now, if it's possible, I cherish it even more. So whatever number of, you know, days, weeks, months, or years that we get together, and I say days because I never know what's going to happen. Both my parents dropped dead of heart attacks. You never know. I'm just going to appreciate it, and whatever time we have is, you know, it's really a second life, a second chance of life. And I've had seconds, thirds, and fourth lives. So, and that's what I try to keep in context. Yeah. So that was a long answer to your question.
No, it's a good answer. I feel like since we're both dog people, and maybe there's some people watching and they're not dog people.
It's okay.
It's okay. It happens. Yeah, we still like you. Yeah. We still love you. Yeah. Maybe you're a cat person. Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe you don't like animals. Maybe you don't like people.
But if you're having a conversation with someone that just doesn't understand this bond that you have with a dog, like, what would you say?
When I was young, here's what I'd say. When I was a boy, I had a dog, and then when I was in you know, he passed away. No, he died. I hate passed away, and he died. And by the way, God rest my mother's soul, but my mother made a decision to put him down without telling me she was going to do it. Don't do that to your kids. It explains a lot.
Yeah.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, man.
There might be one of those in our family, too. There's a mystery passing or runaway. We don't know. Mom, are you watching? Can you clear up the story about Benji? Yeah. We don't really know. Yeah. Yeah,
so, and then I didn't have dogs in college, right? And then I, you know, got out into my young professional life. And I was, to say I was dating this guy named Joe is, I was seeing him. And he during the process of this, he got a puppy. And so now it became my duty to go visit him in West Hollywood rather than him coming to me in Westwood because my building didn't allow dogs.
Yeah.
And see, dogs. There it goes. And so I gave up that relationship because the dog was more important than me. And then in 1989, I met a guy.
I've heard this before, by the way.
In 1989, I was like the kid. I was a really good functioning alcoholic. I could drink huge amounts of alcohol and show up to work and stuff like that. And by the way, my father was alcoholic. It's a genetic disease, I believe, and I forswore I never drank. And then when I was in college, I did because in my fraternity, my nickname was Hal. Don't have any fun around me, Bastian. So one day I just drank to get him off my back, and I drank very successfully for 9 years. Where I could just drink alcoholically but show up. And then I met this guy named Mark who, before we had Grindr and Scruff, not that I know anything personally about that, we had these 976 numbers. And you would call in, and I'm not the best looking guy in the world. I don't have the best body. It's not bad, but I've got a pretty damn good voice. And I just I batted 1,000, I took all kinds of people hostage. Yeah. And I met this guy named Mark, and at the beginning, there was no cocaine involved, but then cocaine entered, and then he knew how to put it in solution and inject it. And I'm like, what? That looks good. Let's do it. At the age of 29.
Yeah. Yeah.
So this is how you go. This is how you go from all-American acolyte boy, never tardy K through 12 to drug addict.
And you rejected the first guy because he had a dog, but got into bad habits.
Yeah. But here's what happened. Then Mark, the junkie, who I loved a lot, wanted to get a dog, and which meant we'd have to move from this incredible apartment overlooking UCLA in Westwood Village, and so we got a golden retriever. And so what I would say to the people that aren't dog people is you get a dog for a week and you'll become a dog person, even if you don't think you are. And thanks for getting me back on track. I kind of forget where I'm going.
I know. I was helping you.
That's all right.
I'm here for you.
There's a purpose. There's a purpose. It makes you relevant.
I feel this
relevant and relatable.
And relatable. Yeah. I would share the opinion on it. So I have a very fluffy little dog that doesn't look like a dog that people with masculine energy.
He would be like animated plush toy.
He is a gremlin. He is. So what's a gremlin when they're not wet? Gizmo, what did they call them? They're really cute and fuzzy, and then they get wet, and it's like, that's my dog.
How's it go?
Yeah, like that. That's my dog. Actually, how it really goes is when he gets really riled up, and I tell everybody this, when he's in this zone, get your hands and fingers out of the way, because he is telling you, I'm at DEFCON, the worst level. Right. Get away from me. Yeah. And it sounds,
no digits in your mouth.
Yeah. It's funny though, because he doesn't have his front teeth and hauling out like this, and it's like it's not scary. He has no front teeth. But what he sounds like is, he's saying deny, deny, deny. So he'll go, deny, deny, deny. And it's like that, he's serious. He does not want you to touch him, move him, try to put anything in front of him. But it sounds like he's saying deny, deny, deny. It's cute.
I guess you had to be there.
Yeah, you have to be there. I can get him to do it.
I got it.
We can do it on film.
I felt like it. Yeah.
We can do that on film. It's very easy to get him there. No, I got you now. I see where you're going.
Yeah.
But so he doesn't look like, he looks very foo-foo. I had a pit bull. I had a dog that size, scooter size, and people respond to you differently. I find that more men kind of appreciate you with a bigger dog. That's a good dog. That's a nice dog, right? But Deeds is fluffy and white and very much a city dog and precious, and will wear a shirt. He's like a little baby.
But he's not an accessory, right?
No, I would never
do that.
Well, wait, let's back up. Okay. Oh. So I have a baby carrier, but it's only because it's in my earthquake pack. And if I have to climb down some stairs, that's the only way he's going to go. He hates it. When I got it, I put him in it. And he looked at me like, lady, you understand I'm a dog, right? Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah. We're not walking around town like this, are we? No. So we don't do the baby beach on. But people are more likely to like my experience, men are more likely to like a dog that's a little bit bigger, and they're not really that interested in Mr. Deeds. But to your point, they somehow, if you spend a little time with them, everybody falls in love with them. everybody falls in love with him, and then they see him, and it's like, oh, it's Deedsy, and what's your name again? Like, we love this dog.
Stephanie who?
Yeah, who are you? But I agree with that. Like, I think if you spend enough time with any kind of animal and be in the moment with them, that you'll find something that you can appreciate and probably learn from them too. They do always.
Now, let me tell you something. Obviously, after surgery and after the stitches came out 2 weeks, and some people, there's a whole community of people in the world that have dogs that have had their shoulders and legs amputated. And
there's probably a Facebook group for that too.
Well, I don't know if there's a Facebook, but there's I think it's tripods.org. And so people started, writing about that. They said, don't be afraid of the amputation site, because you're afraid to touch it, like, wow, because you don't want to hurt them. So I think it took me about a month before I went like this. Then I pressed on.
Wasn't he?
I pressed on it a little bit, and it's like nothing happened. And now we just love on it. Now there's something. I'm a kind of an ebullient guy that. It doesn't matter if the glass is half full or half empty. It matters what kind of glass is it.
Yeah.
Baccarat, Lalique, Waterford, Steuben. And but one of the things I had was one day I had Scooter lounging around on a Saturday morning, and I picked Scooter up and I laid him on my chest with his little head here, and I'm holding him. And he's not really that big into cuddling, but he's doing okay. And I realized that, so he had his left side was down on my chest, the side that's now flat. There's no shoulder or knee or elbow. I don't know what you call it on a dog, the front one. And it was just flat and comfortable.
Yeah.
So my dog, has shoulder and leg cut off, but it makes it for good cuddling.
Yeah.
So I'm always, anytime there's a challenge in life, I'm always like, well, what good thing, has come out of this?
Yeah.
And normally, if you have a ruptured appendix, nobody would consider that a good thing, but it changed my life.
Yeah. What's that story?
There's 3 parts of the story.
Of course.
3-legged dog, 3 parts of the story.
I'm going to keep you on track.
One, good luck. This story could save your life. It's a really important story. It's already saved numerous people's lives. So in 2006, there was a big pain in my abdomen, and the 3 parts of the story are: I have a big threshold for physical pain. I'm too busy and stubborn to go to the doctor, and I'm a moron. So those are the 3 parts that you need to remember here. So I had this big pain, and I thought to myself, oh my God, could that be my appendix? And the pain, Stephanie, I would describe as radial. It was from my far, far right side to my far, far left side. In my advanced medical training in political science from UCLA, I thought, no, the appendix is over on the lower right. This pain is across my abdomen. And even before, Google was around, but I decided that it was food poisoning. Any thoughtful person would have immediately gone to the ER, or at least their doctor. That's Wednesday. Fast forward to Saturday. I'm now in Washington, D.C.
You flew with this pain.
So this is the advanced math. 25, 26, 27, 28. I finally make it to GW Hospital. And it turns out my appendix had ruptured on Wednesday. And so I had peritonitis, which is an infection of your abdominal cavity. Gangrene, part of my intestine had died. It was necrotic, and sepsis, and I wasn't supposed to live, but I did. And a couple years later, I'm abbreviating the story. So if you ever have an acute pain, check it out. That's all I'm going to tell you. Now, the acute pain, if it's an appendix, can occur in your shoulder. It can occur in areas other than your abdomen. So if it's an acute pain that you've never felt anything this bad in your life, you're like having a kid, go to the ER. And then it's the most undiagnosed issue. So you kind of really have to be, an advocate. So, to most people think that that's a bad thing. Well, a couple years later, I had to have a surgery to repair a lot of damage to my abdomen. And after I finished, and by the way, the same week I had the surgery, I had to put Buddy, the golden retriever, down. So I'm at Cedars on Monday, come home Thursday. Friday, I get a call from my friend Lupe saying, Buddy can't get up for 4 hours. And I knew that was it. Put him down. I was with him my surgeons would have killed me because I went to the vet to go put him down. I didn't know you could have somebody come into the house and put Buddy down to help him make his transition till he died. And then about, I cried for 4 days at least, curled up in a ball. And then I called the people that used to take care of Buddy, and I said, hey, I want to get back, in the saddle again. And this little guy was rescued out of traffic, as I mentioned, at Tila Pico. So that happened, but I after healing from that surgery, we're getting to things that are good, besides getting him. On the 28th of August 2008, I went back to the LA Athletic Club for the first time in 2.5 years. I had an open wound for a year, hope you're not eating lunch, and it was just a mess. So I didn't exercise for 2.5 years. And after I healed and I got rid of this huge scar and my muscles all got put back together again, I was better than Humpty Dumpty. I went back to the gym and I said, I'm going to exercise. They say 21 days makes a habit, but I'm an alcoholic. It's all or nothing. So I said, I'm going to exercise in some way, shape, or form once a day, every day, until the day I don't. And yesterday wasn't that day. I haven't gone today because my half-hour meeting this morning.
What's the number? I know you keep track of this. What's the number?
3,989.
3,989
days
as of yesterday of exercising. Yeah. So you contribute this to going through something traumatic health-wise. Right. I
never would have done this.
Look, I'm alive. I might as well look good, feel good. Like, is that kind of how?
Yeah. And if I hadn't gone through this near-death experience and had, it's all about perspective. It's all about perspective. So when shitty things happen to you in your life, the first thing you've got to do, in my experience, is manage through them. And then look at it and say, now what the fuck do I do with this to make it good? And so one of the reasons that I've been able to exercise for 10 years, 10 months, and today's the 30th. 30th or 30th?
Today's the 30th.
30th?
30th.
Yeah. Okay. It's been 10 years, 11 months, and 2 days every day of exercising in some way, shape, or form. And I never would have done that without this horrible near-death experience. And I just turned 59 years old. And, my neck's sagging a little bit and everything else. But I've got really big muscles under the suit, and they're hot. And
he does. You post pictures.
It's our first date, so I'm not going to take off my jacket. But
you can follow him on Instagram.
Yeah, right. The grinder shot, no head. And then so that's it. So I'm 59 years old, Stephanie, and I literally feel 28. So if you are 59 years old, you've got a great body because you work really hard at it, and you feel 28 years old, it's a really wickedly great combination. And that never would have happened if I hadn't almost died of a ruptured appendix. It took a long time to tell the story, but you get the idea.
I get the idea. I don't even think I have to recap that. It's a good story. No. There's never too late. It's never too late to try something new. Appreciate what you have.
Look at it from a new angle.
Yeah.
What can I get out of this?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like it.
And just be in today, and stop wallowing in the resentment and the disappointment of the past and fearing the future. And that's what human beings do, generally. At least I do, and I have to manage that every day when I catch myself doing that.
I do too. I do too.
I just wish. I have all kinds of friends from 18 to 95. My oldest buddy is 95. He's a World War II veteran. He was a navigator on a bomber in the Pacific, and he's 95, and he's working out with me. And his name is Hiram Kwan. Hi, Hiram. And he's like fantastic.
It's awesome.
Yeah. Exercise and diet's a good thing.
That's a good segue to the next important question on Relatable. You ready for this? You know what's coming. So we like to talk about exceptional human encounters. What does that phrase mean to you?
Exceptional human encounters.
It's not something that happens on Grindr.
I don't know.
Just kidding.
I've seen a lot of really. Oh, I'm sorry. A lot of my friends on Grindr.
All right.
It's no different than going to a bar.
It is a little bit different.
Well, no, it's different because you have to spend $18 on like a martini.
I think there's more differences than that.
Whatever.
Okay.
So
that's another show.
Yeah, it's another show. So an exceptional, human interaction is we deal with lots of people every day, right?
Mm-hmm.
And even when you walk by people on the street, that's not an extraordinary human interaction. But I would say any time I take a meeting with a human being like this, they are all extraordinary human interactions. Not every person is a person that is, has great wisdom or is a yogi to me or anything else, but no matter what that interaction is, it's an important interaction. And what makes it special is sitting down with them, and for whatever your agenda is for the meeting. And my big goal in life, I'm not the richest guy in downtown. I'm not the richest guy in downtown in terms of my bank account. There's all kinds of people that are millionaires and that I work with, millionaires, 100 millionaires and billionaires. And I don't have the net worth that they do. And I'm just as rich as they are, spiritually. I call it spiritual income. And, I got to help recruit Ralph's to downtown and Bottega Louie and Whole Foods and about 300 other things. And every crane that people have seen in the sky for the last 10 years, I was one of the people out there helping people get confidence to do it. So when I sit down with people today, I do like to talk, but then I like to. My biggest goal in life is to have a positive influence on anybody that I interact with that day, and hopefully, this interaction will be a pleasant one for you today, and for Dee on the camera. Hi, Dee.
He's nodding his head.
Yeah,
and he smiles.
He
has a great smile.
Yeah.
I wish I had a way of turning the cameras on because he has a great smile.
So those are all incredible interactions. And within that, though, there's a person that stands out.
Yeah.
So today you'll probably be the winner.
Oh, thank you. Well, I think, and you just verified this for me, and everybody answers this question differently, but I think what makes an exceptional human encounter happen is that we allow each other to be seen. So you're making direct eye contact with me. I see you. I feel you in this space right now. Now we're in the present together. When you can reflect on, like, I see this person, they're right here, and I know that they see me. I think that that's an exceptional human encounter. And you're right, it doesn't have to be that they possess a certain wisdom or they're passing along some knowledge or experience to you. You have today, you certainly have done that. But I think allowing each other to be seen, heard, and loved for who we are and not for anything that we're doing, it's just, this is you, is what makes it exceptional. And you sort of just verified that answer for me. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. So we get to do a couple more things. We're close to time right now.
What?
I know.
Extend the time.
Extend the time. Well, we do all the time because we can.
I have no idea what other questions are coming. I got no preparation for this whatsoever.
Well, then I should
have a conversation with you.
So then I could just throw anything
at me.
All right.
See if I can catch it.
So let's do the dice. We're going to do two more things.
Yeah.
We're going to do the dice, and then we are going to reiterate that social challenge that I issued at the beginning of the show, which I never do. I usually only put them at the end, but I think this is an important one to think about. How are you persuadable? So we're going to talk about that one more time. But these are new since you've been here last. So this dice has all of our senses on it, plus body language. And this one is meant to just prompt us to talk about that sense, because we relate through our senses. So what comes up is like stories of our past that, involves tasting something different or hearing something that was very unique and it reminds you of somebody.
Songs that you associate with periods in your life.
Exactly. Can be anything. Smells. Like, I am super sensitive to smell, as everybody knows by now, because I tell stories all the time.
I can't smell anything anymore.
I smell too much. If I could pass on some of my scents to you, I would. Can you smell your tea?
No.
It's very strong. No. I mean, I love the smell of this tea.
Yeah, and the irony is that I do not have a good sense of smell because of cocaine, because I shot it and I didn't snort it. That's for what, D? What's going on back there? Yeah, well, the other part here before we roll the dice is that if you had told me that I could get clean and sober and I was a billionaire, I would have bet you my fortune plus $1 that I couldn't, and I have. And during this period of sobriety, I didn't have children in this life, but I'm having a city.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I'm having a city. They're all my babies.
You have a city of a beloved dog. All right. So we're gonna roll these dice.
3-legged dog.
I'm gonna roll them, and we're gonna figure out which thing we're gonna bring up. If something comes to mind for you, there's no rules. This is like relating in general. There's no real rules to these dice. It's just meant to go, hey, what can we talk about? Give us put a new prompt.
We really had a lot of trouble talking about.
I know we've had such trouble. Well, I've just listened. Okay, and this is appropriate too. So we got the hearing. So it's a story about something that we've heard, and then the prompt is, do this mean what? So maybe it's a story about hearing something and you were a little confused by what you heard or how somebody interpreted what they heard.
So the sense that we're dealing with is hearing.
Hearing. And if you were to do something related to...
Can we re-roll this one? I don't like that.
You don't like that one?
No.
Oh, jeez. Only for you, Hal. Okay, dare. It's a dare in regards to hearing.
Here's my biggest challenge in life. I'm an empathic person.
So am I.
Yeah. Which is, and for those of you that don't know what empaths are, is that we feel everything. We feel everything around us. And so like if you're in an office environment and you go by somebody's room, office or workstation that's having a bad day, you feel it.
Yeah.
You feel it. You also feel the good stuff. It enables me to be, ultimately I'm a storyteller and I'm a salesman, but one of the reasons I've been pretty successful at it is I can feel what people need and want.
Did you have that awareness before you were doing cocaine?
Yeah.
You did. So did you have a hard time in nightclubs because of this? No. You'd never had a hard time being in a nightclub and hearing everything that was going around you?
No.
I have a hard time.
You do?
Yeah, I have a hard time. That's like the hardest environment.
The biggest dare for me regarding listening is shutting my mind the fuck up so I can hear you and what you're saying instead of anticipating the next thing to say to you that's witty and charming.
So that's the dare. So do you want me to issue a social challenge to help you with that dare?
Yeah.
Will you do it?
Shut the fuck up and listen. And stop thinking about your egocentric self.
I'm going to record my voice on your phone, and it's going to be an alarm that goes off. Shut the fuck up, Hal.
Shut the fuck up.
No. I mean, the hearing thing. No, you're good. You're fine. But pausing, like I had to work on this, and I would just find myself slowing down a little bit and pausing and just, even if I know exactly what I'm going to say or how I'm feeling about something, I would wait 5 seconds before I said it, just to really allow the person that's talking to be heard and let that sink in. Or the other thing that I found is really helpful to not speak so soon or cut somebody off is to just ask a question. So then I have more insight on what I'm going to say next, because now they've shared a little bit more. So maybe like that first thing that I was going to say, maybe that was a little off because there was more to the story that I could have uncovered or allowed to be present. What does that feel like? Yeah, he's coming. He's learning. This is live learning, people.
Feels good.
It feels good, right?
Historically, I've been what's called a nuclear reactor. So I get some input in and I just react emotionally. That's part of empathy too. And sometimes it doesn't serve you. In fact, most of the time it doesn't serve you.
No.
And one of the things that I've been, mindfulness is the big word of the, last at least 10 years, is instead of reacting, I'm working to respond, which is taking that pause. I wish that I could just impart to you through like a Dr. Spock mind meld all the things that I've learned, so that you could do them and not go through the pain that I've gone through.
Of course. I wish there was a way
maybe that's not, maybe everybody has
we can
to
figure
do that
how to bring people together in a group and just share that collectively.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be amazing?
So I'm working instead of reacting to responding, and I'm doing that right now with homelessness and mental illness. We've always had the reason that Skid Row exists is people vote where they live and no one lived downtown. So 60 years ago, we started marginalizing people that we didn't want to deal with in Skid Row. And as a recovering alcoholic and a drug addict and somebody who deals with physiological depression, I always like to say, the difference between me being on the show and being on the street pushing the basket is if I ever pick up again.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that happens for me, and this relates to responding rather than reacting,
mm-hmm.
is when I go into the public realm and I see somebody who is walking around with no shoes, with open sores, covered in feces, and smelling of urine, I feel a profound sense of empathy. I feel it. There, but for the grace of God, go I, to repeat that for the 14th time, and sadness, profound sadness. And at the same time, I feel unbridled rage that our society has allowed this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I'm doing, and I did this actually with working with a hypnotherapist. I'm a big believer in hypnotherapy.
I met her.
Debbie?
I went to see her.
Debbie?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
So hypnotherapy is a great tool if you haven't used it. I quit smoking through it. I have sleep apnea, which means I quit breathing in the middle of the night, and I have a CPAP machine, which makes you look really sexy. If I have dates over.
You are Darth Vader.
I go to put my, thing on. I'm like, you didn't know, but you're sleeping with Darth Vader. So, but anyway, I'm compliant with that now. And so what I worked with Debbie, her name is Debbie Covino. You can Google her. Debbie, I get 10% of all that revenue. Is to work at, when I go into the public realm, and by the way, since the year 1994 till this year, every single time I go into the public realm, I feel both those feelings, at least once, if not numerous times, and it's exhausting, and it's reactive.
Mm-hmm.
So
rage and empathy.
Rage and empathy.
Yep.
And so working with Debbie, I've learned to work on some, not only when if I catch myself starting to go into that,
mm-hmm.
I say stop. Did I cause it? No. Am I going to control it in this moment? No. Am I going to cure it now? No. Do I care? A lot.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not going to go into that adrenaline craziness. Our air conditioning's turning on, by the way. Finally.
Oh, that's not the biggest noise.
Oh, what
just
is
wait.
that sound?
Just wait for it.
Yeah.
Right here. I don't know if you guys even hear it.
Yeah, we're probably making a
Right
big
here.
deal out of fucking nothing. The gurgle.
Yeah.
I love it.
It's like a giant in the room, like
so,
mouthwash.
So now what I'm doing is I'm going into the public realm, and when I start to get upset, I say stop. And but that doesn't mean if there's somebody conked out on the street, I'm not going to call Business Improvement District or 911 to get them help. I do that. So I don't get upset because I've been so fatigued by it. Mr. Downtown has literally thought about retiring from downtown, notwithstanding all the great things we do. It's just so sad.
You wouldn't move from downtown. You would just
just retire. So and then the opposite of that is then do some compassionate action to try to incrementally help this situation with mental illness and homelessness.
Yeah.
And that's another show that we could do, because I'm doing that right now.
Yeah.
Is getting together to help people. And the number one thing we hear about mental illness and homelessness is it's so complicated and one size doesn't fit all. All that's true, but we make it more complicated. Here's how it goes. You interact with a person and you evaluate them to find out if they're mentally ill or not. It's not that hard, actually. Mm-hmm. And then you find if they are mentally ill, are they just organically mentally ill, or is there drugs and alcohol involved in it? Are they economically homeless? They have no addiction problem. They're just living in their car. Mm-hmm. And so there's probably, 3 main food groups there, and then you can deal with it from there. It's not that complicated. We've made it complicated. And so it doesn't have to be. So to the extent that I can as one human being, I'm helping people. And I'd encourage everybody in the audience to do so as well.
So it's just
It's not hopeless.
It's not hopeless. Nothing's hopeless.
No.
Nothing's hopeless. All right. Well, thank you for filling the hour.
Wait, it's 11:57. Do we have 3 more minutes?
No.
No?
No.
It's over?
Maybe I have 3 minutes.
I want to do another show. We're going to talk about how to solve homelessness and mental illness.
Oh my gosh, we need to fill the room with all the people that actually should be part of that conversation, like Officer. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them have been here, but bringing them together, and I think what you just said about, you can't, the rage in the moment doesn't help but stopping to go, okay, what's the action that I'm going to do to just keep moving this forward?
It's okay
Like every day, even if it's tiny, even if it's one email, every day we can take one little action to keep moving that in the right direction.
Yeah.
And it's not a tweet, okay? Let's just be real about that. Sometimes it might be, sometimes it might be, but it's not just, oh, this is how I feel about it. Hopefully someone else feels this way, and then they take the action.
Yeah.
It's
So there's only two things we have to be today.
what are they?
Kind to one another, D, and help somebody today.
I love it. Well, you're going to
be kind and be of service. If you do those two things, you're a success. Whether you're Jeff Bezos or whether you're the ditch digger or the janitor,
I
you're
love
a
it.
success.
I love it. You're going to love how I close the show. So two things. So we already issued the social challenge of the week, which is the I am not your persuadable challenge, which is just thinking about, being mindful about what content that you're putting out there, and maybe taking a little attitude and saying, look, I'm not persuadable on these things, and then just watch what kind of content comes in and do a little research. Where is it coming from? What do you think the intention is? Is it factual? Is it not factual? Is it good for you to think a different way about something? Just consider that. So that's the challenge of the week. And as always, thank you so much for being here and sharing your story. Thanks, Scooter.
Hey, Scooter.
Scooter's just napping the whole time. He's like, is it over? Hi, buddy.
Be happy like Scooter.
Hi, buddy. Yeah, be happy like Scooter. Oh, he's going to lay down again. And then to Hal's point, the encouragement always for the show is think about what you're doing to make an exceptional human encounter happen today. So what are you doing? How can you make that happen for you? It's for you too, but for you and for someone else. See you next week.
Do something nice today.
Do something nice.